So I had a request to do a makeup tutorial to show how I do my face, and I figured I'm in this fancy hotel room with the awesome lighting and the super cleanness, and figured now is as good a time as any. I may or may not get interrupted by my roommate. I'm on a work trip and they assigned me a roommate, so we'll see if she comes back. I am already wearing a little bit of eyeshadow from earlier today, so we're just gonna ignore that and pretend like I have a nice clean face on, and we'll see how it goes. So the first thing I always do is I make sure to tone my face and moisturize it. It'll keep you looking young and pretty forever. But also it will prepare the skin to take the makeup, and it will look more even. It's not gonna like soak in funny ways or oxidize in funny ways. So yeah, it just helps. So okay. Yeah. Cool. So now that my skin is moisturized and prepared, I am going to get my stuff. Doop, doop, doop. Also, my makeup brushes are fucking dirty as shit, so don't judge me. Sorry about it. But you should wash your brushes because it's what real human beings do and not garbage people like me. Cool. So here is what we are gonna do. So my main face products are Kryolan TV paint stick. I use this for the main face color and also for my my highlight number one. I also use a little bit of Clown White just to really pop some of the highlights. And then I use this Nye, what is this even called? Nye Media Pro HD Eye Definer in SL-14 Taupe. That's a lot of words, guys. Anyway, so it's a little pot. I do this specifically because if it was a stick like my Kryolan, I would run through it really fast and then I would over contour and have too much dark on my face, and it would just look weird. So what I do is basically I just put this anywhere that is not going to have other shit on it at some point. So it doesn't really super matter like where this ends up. Yeah, usually I kind of do that. It's mostly just so your highlight and your contour like have something to blend into and like sit on, because if you had nothing there, then it doesn't blend as nicely. I really like the Kryolan specifically because it's a mineral oil base, and so it sits like on your skin. If your skin can breathe, you're not wearing enough makeup. Drag kings can wear just as thick a face as drag queens, so you know, because when you're on the stage the light washes you out and it looks ridiculous. So good enough. And I don't usually cover the top part of my forehead for a couple of reasons. One, when you wear a wig, if it's like there's hair or like the lace from your like lace front or whatever, it's just gonna get Kryolan all over it, and this shit, like I said, is mineral oil, so it's never gonna come off if you get it on shit. But also I feel like it looks kind of masky for you to have literally like your whole face covered, and something about that one little like strip of real skin kind of like makes it look more real. So there's that. I like to start with my highlight just because I feel like if you start with your low light, your contour shade, I feel like it just gets kind of muddy. I feel like it doesn't look as clean. And I feel like placing it is a lot harder, just because there's less of your physical face than is actually contoured. So you have to figure out exactly where you want to place that. And putting the highlight on first, I feel like kind of helps. So I use 00 for my first highlight color. And I kind of just do like a big blob just on the lower part of my face. Just like that. It's really not fancy. And it really should cover like most of your cheek area. If you look at like, if you really look at a person's face, there's like a lot of cheek there. Like even if you have smaller features like I do, you have a lot of cheek. So really take up space there, because that's going to help create a like heavier bone structure. And I feel like the heavier bone structure is useful in selling kind of the drag king traditionally masculine illusion. So once you've done your blobs down here, you do a little line just directly across here. So that's all the way across the brows. Don't stress too much if you get some in the brows. You're going to be doing more shit with your brows later. But you're just going to do a straight line across. And then when you hit, like, you know how eyebrows, they are like an angle and then they like kind of change angles? Right where that changes, do a line up. I don't really have an angle because my eyebrows are flat and useless and stupid. So I kind of just make up a place for them. That's not even at all, but that's okay. So now you have this kind of like square shape that's gonna kind of make the brow area a little bit heavier, which is gonna be a little bit more traditionally masculine. So you do your blobs, you do this, cool. Like I said, it's super uneven, but that's okay, it doesn't really matter. Next thing I want to do is, I have not a weak chin, but I have an overbite. You can call me Alyssa Edwards. So I like to emphasize and bring forward this like chin more. So I do kind of like what I did here, except I do it down here. So I go like this, sort of in the corner of the mouth. It's almost going to look like you're making yourself into like a ventriloquism dummy or something. In terms of like where to place it specifically on your face is going to be a different shape than mine probably. So you're just going to have to figure out where to place it. A way that could be super helpful is to like legit find a picture of a person whose face you want to sort of emulate a little bit, like whose bone structure is kind of what you're digging. So like if I wanted like a picture of like, I don't, whoever, a dude, I could take that picture and with like a pen literally find like the parts of the face that look like they stick out the most and draw a line on them, and then find the parts of the face that look like they stick out the least and draw a line on them. So for example, if I'm trying to make my chin stick out more, if I was looking at a picture of a guy who had a chin that stuck out the way that I wanted mine to, I probably would have drawn a little line right there because his chin is sticking out. It might help, it might not. It's mostly just trial and error. In short, things that stick out are lighter, things that recede are darker. So everything I'm doing right now is going to look like it's coming out or coming forward or catching the light more. I also do a really short, kind of straight little, almost like a war paint thing. I don't let it come past this line that I've kind of made here, mostly because what I'm trying to do with this part of the paint is I'm trying to widen and thicken this and I'm trying to like square off and narrow this so that I end up with almost like like from Family Guy, like Quagmire, how he has that giant like bottom half of the face, but then the top is all teeny and narrow. So that is pretty much where I put this color. Sometimes I'll do like the nose too to like kind of broaden that out. But sometimes I go too much and I end up looking like those vintage sunscreen ad things where they had like fucking sunscreen on the nose and nowhere else. So I have all this, and also I tend to highlight a little bit past the bottom of my nose just to kind of make my nose look bigger and more like bulbous, I guess. Just like how most queens like whittle their nose down to be like finer and more delicate, I tend to kind of want to bulk mine up a little bit. Cool, yay. This looks done, right? Go on stage, do the thing. Cool. Next, I take my Clown White, which is not terribly white anymore. I do a lot of finger painting because, like I said before, my brushes are fucking disgusting and my fingers are maybe a little cleaner. But maybe not. I didn't wash them, so whoops. Anyway, this has just been Nye Clown White. It's not anything fancy or hard to find. It's literally just Clown White. I don't know what to say. So for this, this is basically like the stick that I just put on is the parts of the face that are like catching the light a little bit more, but this is the part that is specifically reflecting the light, or specifically like the most sticky-outy. So I usually do kind of like a smaller blob and like a line, and that helps kind of square out the jaw and really let like that one little bit catch it. Okay, so I've done that. Okay, I don't generally do really any Clown White through any of here. I do, however, do a little bit extra right here, just to really give myself more of like a ridge than I already have. Ideally, you want that to be like reasonably straight, but it doesn't always happen like that, such as right now. And then with the chin, sorry, my nose is itchy. I promise I'm not picking it. With the chin, you can do a couple of things at this point. I tend to experiment with how I do my chin just because there are lots of different ways. You might contour it more or less depending on if you're putting on facial hair, for example, which I haven't decided yet if I'm doing that. We'll see. For now, I'll contour it as if I'm not doing facial hair. And basically the difference is just how much attention you pay. If you're covering it up anyway, who fucking cares? So what I do is on just the outside kind of lower corner, I'll do that. And then right here, where there's already kind of a line, I do that there. So that's the highlight. You can let it cook or you cannot. I don't have a super strong opinion about cooking. Some people say that cooking lets it really sink into your skin and like set so that when you blend it, you're not just rubbing it right off your face. I don't necessarily buy that, especially if you just moisturized. It doesn't need to like sit and sink in. Like you did that already, kind of. So sometimes I like it just because it lets me step away from my face for a little while and come back almost like with fresh eyes, and that is helpful in seeing like what I need to blend. But honestly, some of my favorite faces are the ones where like I overslept and I have 20 minutes to throw a face on, and so I just kind of fart one out and get on the stage or something like that. So cooking is sort of neither here nor there for me. You can choose to blend your highlights and then put in your contour. I do that sometimes I don't. I think the biggest difference is if you blend your highlights and then put the contour on. When you blend the contour, you're going to blend the highlights a second time, and so they end up being a little bit more subtle. But if you blend your highlights, there's no risk of accidentally blending your contour into your highlights. So I think either one is totally fine. I think for the purposes of this, I am going to, oh god, hopefully not knock this over. Okay, cool. I think I'm going to go ahead and blend it just so you can see some blending. Oh, and the brush that I use for this is actually just a kabuki brush. A lot of people swear by beauty blenders. Beauty blenders kind of weird me out because you can't necessarily clean them quite as well as you can a brush. I mean, you can clean them. You can clean them very thoroughly, but eventually they start kind of like falling apart and getting grubby and you have to replace them. Like a lot of people say, replace your beauty blender after like 6 months. I have had this kabuki brush for like 6 years now. It's actually discontinued, this specific one. So I went on eBay and I bought 2 more because I wanted to make sure to have them. Does a good job of like pushing the pigment around, which is honestly what I do more than blending, is I just kind of push it. Like if I wanted my cheek to be bigger, like I've realized, oh my god, my cheek is too small, which it kind of is, I can like push it out. And now it's like a little bit bigger. So in terms of like how to do the blending, I don't really know how to teach you how to do that. Mostly it's if you can see a line and you didn't mean for there to be a line there, rub your brush on it until there's not a line. And sometimes I don't even really like move the brush. I kind of just like either tap it or I just sort of wiggle it. Like the specific brush that I use actually kind of picks up a lot of pigment if you're not careful. So I only do that when there is like super excess. Okay, and then these I want to keep reasonably harsh, like not super harsh, but reasonably, just because that really shapes the face. The harder the line is, the more of like a fold it is. If I blended that out, it would just look round, and that's not so much what I'm going for. That is basically the highlight part. It doesn't look like a whole lot yet because there's no shadow, so I just kind of look pale. I don't look that different. So this is where my Nye Media Pro HD Eye Definer SL-14 Taupe comes in. Yay. So just use my finger, and so I do a straight line, and then I continue that straight line past my cheekbone, because again, I'm doing that thing where I'm like narrowing the entire top half of my face. And I fill in the whole temple because I want my temple to really recede. Okay. Okay. So I have taken that line and I've brought it all the way down, and that helps narrow the top half of my face, which by comparison keeps the bottom nice and wide looking. And then in terms of like what shape to do here, I don't know how to explain it, so I'm just gonna do it. It's that. That's the shape. Would be. Anyway, so you want kind of like a loop, kind of like, normally I do it all in one sort of stroke, which makes it a little bit easier, but whatever. And then you see how I have this weird like notch here? Fill that in. I also generally will shade the bottom of my nose. Larger noses cast larger shadows. So yeah. I also make sure that the shadow is a little bit wider than my natural nose because it's going to trick the eye into thinking that your nose is a lot broader than it is. You want your features to just generally take up way more space. So, to this end, you can also kind of do like almost like a little tear. And then pick how wide you want your chin to be and just draw a little line. Ideally, it'd be about the same on the other side. This is not a very symmetrical face. God, I cannot see anything. Okay, that's a little bit more symmetrical. Sure. Anyway, so you've chosen how wide you want your chin to be, and you just make a little line. Kind of carry it down. Okay. And I think butt chins are more masculine, so just do a little butt chin. Yay. And then that line where you put that white before, and just above it, do a little line. That's just gonna further kind of fold the chin up. Remember how I said like the harsher the line is, the more of like a fold it is, as opposed to like a nice smooth kind of roll. That looks real like folded now. Okay. And then the last part of the super heavy cream contour part is defining this little angle. So make some crazy faces. So you paint a little line there. And a little line there. See how like harsh that looks now? Just really helps kind of like really stick that out. And usually it pretty much will hit right where you've already cut your cheek. So you end up with like this like diamond shape. Yeah. I used to contour my throat. I would contour an Adam's apple on, and I really liked the look. The problem was the second that I did anything, like wore a shirt or like put on a tie or whatever, it would just rub back off. So I ended up not doing it. That being said, you do want to blend this line down and just generally kind of darken this because it's going to make all of this look bigger and like more out. But also, I mean, look how crazy I look. I've got like a line, you know? This looks like a very false face right now. So that helps it not look so like mask-like. Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty much the cream part of the contour. This line, I actually don't push the pigment anywhere. I kind of just go along the line to soften it, because right now I look like, literally, I look like a block. So, I just want to soften that. This, just like with the temple, I want it to stay fairly harsh. So usually I just run my contour along it. You might notice that as you're doing this, that nice like jut disappears, but you can always push that back and it like juts back out again. So right here, remember how I said the harsher the line is, the crisper it looks? What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to make this look like crisper on the inside and a little bit softer on the outside to sort of simulate like a hard cut and then like a gradual ease off on it, for a couple of reasons. One, it's just gonna be a harder shape right there. If you look at chins, you can see there's just a harder cut there. But also the light is going to be usually hitting you some kind of direction from the front, which means that the way the shadow falls, like I'll see if I can, the light in here is too like nice, I can't make shadows. If you light a thing with a light, it's going to cast shadows generally kind of backward, which means that the front face of it is going to be really well lit, but then anything kind of behind it is going to be darker. So if I was to like take, I don't even have a thing, here we go. If I was to take like this bottle and light it from the front, this is going to be really well lit. This is going to be like kind of well lit, but then this lip is going to throw a shadow back. So this is going to be really crisp, but then there's going to be a little bit of a shadow. So that's what I'm doing here. So doing this sort of like stippling thing is a really good way to blend in a place where you don't want to push the pigment anywhere, you just want to soften it up. Yeah, okay, good enough. And remember, your audience often will either see you from like below, or you throw your head back to like get in there your song, or I mean they're gonna see you from angles you can't see yourself. So making lots of very attractive faces really helps. Cool. So that is the cream part of it. I do a blend of cream and powder. However, if you try to put your powder contour on top of your cream contour directly and then try to blend it, you're basically gonna mix your powder into the cream and end up with like this weird mess, and like it's gonna stick in some places and you're gonna get this like blotchy and just awfulness, and it's gonna look more like you're dirty than you're contoured. So what I do to combat that, well, what anybody does to combat that is they set it. I have two powders that I use. It kind of, oops, I'm spilling them. Anyway. Oh God, I'm making a mess. Fuck. I have this habit of pouring way too much powder into the lid and then I don't use it all, and so I try to put it back on. It's bad. Anyway, I have this super legit broken makeup brush that I use. This is just a face and body brush. It's what you would use to put powder on. So with the powder, I know you can't like feel my face, you might be able to see though. It's pretty like, no you can't see, and that was really unattractive, sorry for that. My face is almost kind of like tacky right now. It's like if I was to like wipe my face really hard with my hands and then try to wash my hands, all the water would just beat up on my hands, because the Kryolan is a mineral oil base, so it's like really, really thick. The way that I decide whether or not I've put enough powder on is you can kind of feel, like when you're brushing on this powder, you can feel the bristles like kind of dragging a little bit. Like they're not smooth, they don't like go across your skin. And that means that you need more powder. If you have enough powder, the brush will just glide over the skin. So, I'm just gonna powder. When in doubt, powder more. Your contour might disappear a little bit, but that's okay. Oh no, I'm out of powder. Okay. And like, you run through this powder really fast, so don't buy the nice brand. I made the mistake of buying like the Laura Mercier, like super fancy shit, and it was like $28, that tiny ass little thing, and I ran through it in like a month and a half. And yeah, it was a fucking great powder, like I loved it. But I'm not trying to spend $28 a month on my powder when these dudes are $18 and they're huge compared to it. So, and that was probably overpriced because I bought it at some random ass makeup shop in New York City. So, I'm sure you could locate the Ben Nye brand like powder cheaper online or somewhere. Like, your face should feel crazy by the time you're done powdering. Like, you don't really notice that it has a bunch of shit on it when you just have the Kryolan, I feel like. I don't know, it just sort of feels like sweaty. But this is like sealing it all in, and it feels, I don't know, it feels like you're wearing, I don't know, a spandex bodysuit on your face or something. So. Okay, that's probably not actually enough powder. In fact, I know it's not enough powder, but I'm also really sick of powdering my face, so you get the idea. Super powdery, cool, great. Okay, so once you've powdered, you're gonna grab like a taupey, mushroomy kind of brown color. I actually use two different browns. I find that it's helpful in really creating a more dynamic kind of face, because faces have more than two colors on them naturally. So I use the bottom two colors here. This one is, I don't know if y'all can hear that knocking, but there's a loud knocking, and I think my neighbors might be having a good night. Anyway, so this is like the taupey mushroomy brown. It's not that different a color than the brown I used on my contour. The other one is sort of like a brickier, sort of redder brown, and that one I just used to add a little bit more warmth back into my face, because it is a little bit like, there's a pallor sort of to it, but I use that one really sparingly because it is really dark. Okay, I'm kind of a lazy asshole and don't use as many brushes as I probably should, given how like in there I like to get. You can kind of fake it by like squeezing your brush down and just like, you know, or you could just be a not lazy asshole and get more brushes. I have this like giant brush roll kit and I'm too lazy to use most of it, but it really is easier if you can be arsed. So I'm gonna take my taupey color, which is running out. I need to go find a new one. This is just some shitty eyeshadow palette that I picked up from Body Shop a long ass time ago, and I actually really love the colors. So, and I don't necessarily redo all of the contour that I did before. Like, I'm not going to redo this because that doesn't need to be redone, but I do redo a lot of it. And I'm probably only going to actually do half my face because I'm not, this isn't for a show or anything. I'm just doing this in my hotel room instead of exploring New Orleans. So I'm only going to do half of it. But you kind of just follow what you did before, except you're going to do slightly less of it, because you want there to be a nice gradation. So you can kind of see, like, I didn't go all the way down, I didn't necessarily do all of this, yeah. And just for the initial part, especially if it's somewhere that I want a lot of pigment to stick, I like to kind of go like this rather than like this, because it really jams it in there and gets it like going. So here comes me being real lazy and not actually using different brushes. So I've kind of like squeezed it into a weird, this kind of shape. Okay, God, I'm so itchy tonight. Sorry. Y'all get to sit here and watch me dig in my nose a little bit. Okay, so I have redone a lot of what I did before. It's that knocking again. Okay. So yeah. So the parts that I tend to focus on are like here, 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 and specifically just the corner. I don't actually really redo any of that because I found I was getting like weird lines, so that when I was like lip syncing really hard and I was like, there was like a weird like dark patch that didn't make a lot of sense. You can fill that in. And it looks fine. Usually I just blend over there. I don't usually add extra pigment. So, that's really all I use that darker one for. Sometimes if I'm feeling more caveman-y, I'll do a little bit there. But as you can see, that's really dark. And now I have like this long kind of brow. Okay, so I've put that on. Now I'm going to blend it. Ideally, with this little line here, you should have two triangles that kind of point in. I don't currently have that, so I'm going to take a finger, make sure it's like super clean, and I'm just going to kind of like erase a little bit of the pigment, whatever. Yeah. So that is approximately the like one half of my face. That being said, it doesn't look very manly yet, and that is because of some of the little finishing touches that we're gonna do now. These are the things that I feel make your face look more manly. I have to get my brush, hold on. Okay, there we go. Cool. So, the face that I do, so right now I'm looking kind of like pale and like kind of dead and queasy. That's fine if that's the look you're going for, but a lot of men are a little bit like more rosy. They almost look like they've had like a drink or two. They're a little bit like flushed, especially around the nose. So I have this kind of like rose gold, like warm blush. You don't want to go too pale or too cool, because I feel like that might look like you're wearing blush. But a nice kind of like, you know, naturally goldy, kind of like fall color blush is good. And I just sort of stipple this really patchy like over just the entire like cheek and nose region. Again, you want it to be like reasonably patchy, like you don't want to look like you have a band of pink across your face. That being said, it always looks really weird to me to like leave out the side of the nose. It just looks really accidental. So this adds back in that blotchiness that I feel like makes it look a lot more natural. Usually the bottom half of my face stays sort of unusually kind of like gray slash pale slash there's like that pallor. I'm actually kind of okay with that because it almost looks to me a little bit like 5 o'clock shadow because it is so gray. Queens, when they're covering up their beard, male-bodied queens, when they're covering up their beard, they use orange to counteract that kind of like cool tone, and I don't mind that this is kind of cool. And then because I didn't put the makeup all the way up my forehead, that doesn't actually get that like pallor. So now that I've put that blush on, there really isn't any other like place that looks too makeup-y. And then the thing that really sells the face to me is the eyebrows and the sideburns and like the various hairy bits, because I still have pretty thin eyebrows. I don't have any sideburns. I look still a lot like me. I haven't really changed anything all that much. So I use this like mineral, it's like a brown mineral makeup. I like this because it has a little bit of a color variation and kind of a shimmer, which makes it look a little bit more like hair to me. So for sideburns, I usually, I have like a ridge in my hairline that I kind of just draw down. And then like the very backety back of my natural sideburn, and then I kind of just scribble it in. You don't want it to be too solid, because then you end up with that weird like fakey kind of look. Because I mean, like even real hair, like you can kind of see through some of it. So but you want them to be like really thick. I think that's like one of the things that masculinizes my face the most, is having these nice thick sideburns. And like from inside, like me feeling this brush on my skin, it feels like I'm like putting it out to here, but I'm really not. Like there's still plenty of dead space in here. So okay, so that's the sideburn. I could do a little bit more and chunk it up if I wanted to. I'm kind of worried I'm running out of phone space, so I'm not going to. However, because my hair is pink right here, and now that looks really drawn on, I have a pink eyeshadow that I just take my finger and I literally just kind of like rub in a little bit of pink, and that helps it look a lot more natural. Getting that good color match is important. And then last but not least, eyebrows. Well, not last, almost last. The last of the mandatory kind of steps to my face. I get that same mineral-y color, and I always start with the inside. So I'm trying to lessen the amount of eyelid that I have, just like how queens like to block out their brows and draw their eyebrows way the fuck up here so they have lots of eyebrows or eyelid space. I don't need that eyelid space because I'm not putting anything there anyway. So I go like this and I go whoop. It's basically just a straight line that starts at the inner corner of my eye and hits my brow somewhere kind of halfway across ish. And then I kind of just fill that in. Okay. And then I kind of like flatten this out until I get to where I hit my brow before, sort of. It's not an exact science. And then I draw it down. So I have this like super chunky, blocky brow. With brows, heavier is generally more effective. I used to kind of be scared of doing a really heavy brow until I saw pictures of me on stage and I was like, wow, there's no brow there. So I do them like way thicker than I feel like I should. And then I kind of just bring it across. This is a really bad brow because I'm doing it in the phone, but it's the same sort of like procedure. And then if I don't love the shape, you have so much makeup on your face right now, you could literally take a nail and just sort of like scrape it to kind of even it. And then I like to do sort of like a lazy version of the ombre brow that a lot of queens do. So I just take my finger and I literally just kind of scrub it. So that is the brow. I'm only doing the one again because I didn't do the rest of the face over here. I kind of wish I like hadn't contoured it all on this side of the face. Like I think I'm gonna try to wipe some of this off so that you can really see the difference between the two sides. The slightly like heavier bone structure. It's a little bit more flushed. It's got the nice brow. That sideburn, it's looking a little more like masculine versus the face I started with. It's not a huge transformation. It's not as big as a lot of queens have, but I think it's enough that people are like, whoa, that's you. So that's fun. And then I did not bring my stuff for facial hair in here, so I'm gonna go grab that. I'll be right back. So I prefer glitter facial hair because men don't get the opportunity, traditionally speaking, to sparkle as much as I think they should get the opportunity to sparkle. So any excuse to be a little sparklier, a little bit showier, flashier is awesome because you are on stage and you are entertaining and you should look entertaining as well as being entertaining. So I use the Nye Glitter Glue. Pro tip, do not put this like in the eye area. It fucking sucks. Don't do it. Even doing my brows is enough to like make my eyes water. So literally just brush it on. In terms of placing facial hair, it's really important to study pictures of facial hair. Get one of those like artist books that I wish I had one here to show you. But they have like these books that are just pictures of people making faces, and it's like the same guy making like 900 faces, and it's really helpful because you can see how the facial hair grows and like how the face moves. Anyway, facial hair. Mustaches tend to really only grow to where your smile line is, so kind of like go like that, and that's about so there's that, and you just kind of let it dry for a second. You should buy cosmetic glitter. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. They make cosmetic glitter that is safe for your eyes, sort of. I mean, don't dump it in there, but if you get it in there, it's not as big a deal. The shit I use is literally like scrapbooker's glitter. Like, I think literally if you type in scrapbooker's glitter in Amazon, you're going to find my glitter. But it is what it is. YOLO. But do as I say, not as I do. Buy cosmetic glitter. I usually also do my brows just so that they match. So I just take the glitter glue and I brush it into the brow and then I tap it into the brow. So I'll do that as well. But I didn't do that this time. So I tap this on. It's looking a little chunky. So I just take a fingernail. And very lightly kind of scrape away what I don't want. I hate this mustache. I would never go on stage with this mustache. The shape is terrible, but you get the idea. That looks slightly better. I might go on stage in this mustache. So, yeah, that is my King makeup tutorial thing. If you have any specific questions or like something I didn't think to cover or like something you're not sure about, like let me know. I feel like the biggest trick is just playing with your face and the shapes and the angles that you want to create, because my face is not your face, and so this line might be different for you, like this width. It's all about proportion and just trying things out, and like every time I do my face, I try to do at least one thing a little differently just to see what happens. If you hate it, you can always take it off. It's makeup. Like, it's, you're not tattooing this on your face permanently. So, but yeah, just to kind of show you the final effect. Probably blend that line out a little more. Not too much, but yeah. Well, there you go. So yeah, hope this was helpful, and feel free to play with it yourself and kind of figure it out. Good luck. Bye.